Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Yeah, welcome in to another rousing rendition of Libservative. No Bell the Bodysnatcher today, but he, as always, is Corey Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin.
And this is the show of intellectual idiots fostering political and cultural literacy. We do apologize for our strange schedule the last couple of weeks. I had a trip to take, and Corey had an emergency last time, so here we are on another beautiful Detroit Saturday morning. It's about 60 degrees outside. I didn't mean for this to be a weather report, but here we are. So why don't you tell the people where they can find us so I can stop boring our listeners, Corey?
Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikToks can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today. So what's
this
up, Dan?
might be, I was going to say, this might be the first episode we've ever done where you and I are going to be like pretty much both stone cold sober. I have a little post trip anxiety this morning, so I did take a small shot of bourbon. I don't know if anybody else gets that. I asked you before the show, do you get like post vacation like anxiety? And you said you get the blues a little bit.
Yeah, the lamentation of no one coming back to the real world, and then like I guess maybe a little anxious knowing I have to pick up all the shit I was putting off the week before. Because I'm like, I'll take care of it after the vacation.
It's so funny because I've always been a nervous flyer, particularly on the way back from a trip. Because like on the way out, like I was telling you, you have the excitement of the trip coming up ahead, so it's not as bad. But I've always been like a really nervous flyer on the way home, and I woke up yesterday morning with that, anxiety of having to get on a plane. It's weird because I'm not like afraid to fly. I'm just a nervous flyer, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I woke up yesterday morning before I get on the flight, and I have, my general, pre going home flight anxiety. And then like we got home, everything went fine. It was a terrible flight, super bumpy. We had a crotch goblin in the row in front of us that was misbehaving the entire fucking flight.
Yeah,
plus I was in the
that
middle
kid.
seat. Oh, it was brutal. And then the landing was rough as shit. You ever have one of those rough landings where the plane bounces around a whole bunch of times and you feel like it's going to tip over?
Yeah. So full disclosure, I usually hit up the bar in the airport as soon as I get there.
See, we didn't have time. Ordinarily, I would do that, but we were flying out of an airport that we didn't realize once you get off the highway, it takes you another 20 minutes to get to. So we literally got through TSA with maybe 15 minutes before boarding was supposed to start.
Oh, so the whole time you're like freaking out.
I wasn't freaking out. Like I knew we had time. Like we were going to be okay. I could, TSA wasn't that busy. I was like, we're going to be fine. But yeah, it was just like this whole thing. And then we get home yesterday, and I woke up this morning, and like I still have like the same pre-flight anxiety that I woke up with yesterday morning. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on. Just need a little shot of St. Patrick's Day bourbon, I guess is what I need.
Yeah, hey, like my hat? Tomorrow's St. Patty's Day.
So I guess maybe that's what I learned this week, that I have to get a pre-flight drink.
Yeah,
especially on my way home.
Yeah, there you go. You want to know what I learned this week, Dan?
What did you learn this week, Corey?
Well, first, let's put up the banner.
Things learned.
Things learned. I learned that cloud seeding is actually real. Like they actually use it. Like what made me think of this? Like out in like states are actually trying to use it to like actually make it rain and stuff like that. Because I found this article by the LA Times And the article is, and it's just funny, right? We talk about how articles like mislead with headlines and stuff like that. The latest unfounded conspiracy theory, cloud seeding, is to blame for California's storms and flooding. And it goes on to talk about, well, first off, the Orange County did start a pilot program to seed clouds in the region in November to see if it could increase water supplies. And then shortly after were the big storms. So if you remember, like up until recently, like just the idea of cloud seeding was like this huge conspiracy theory, right? And now it's true.
Along with chemtrails.
Yeah, and now it's true. And instead of the conspiracy theorists just being happy with it, they're going, see, look what it did here. It caused this big storm. And it's like, you guys are just fucking yourself constantly. And you just run with it. But like this article, it's funny because the headline paints, right? Like the latest unfounded conspiracy theory, cloud seeding is to blame for California. It makes them sound crazy, right? The idea of cloud seeding, like, oh, that's just a conspiracy. But then they admit to it in the article. But then they reassure you that it was not cloud seeding that caused the big storms that happened right around the same time, because they didn't do it like right before, they said.
So okay, so like you'd have the conspiratorial folks telling you that it was cloud seeding that caused these storms, and then you'll have the climate change advocates say that it's all because of climate change that we're having weird storms in weird locations, because that was a strange location. You don't normally see a seafaring storm smash into California like that. That's pretty bizarre.
But they sometimes happen, you know, like there is ones in history, because like most of the time you always hear that we haven't had a storm like this in like 100 years, you know, things like that. But yeah, it's funny, right? Like the liberals immediately go up climate change, and then the conspiracy theorists immediately go up government.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talked about
and
this
it might
before.
kind
like,
of be something in the middle.
Maybe, I don't know, because we get really upset when we hear people talk about like strange weather events being caused by climate change. Like we've had an abnormally warm winter this year in Michigan.
Yeah.
Like it's been pretty mild. We've barely gotten any snow, but like people like the climate change advocates, they act like it's never happened before. Like we've had mild winters before. Is this the most mild winter we've had, quote unquote, on record? Yeah, but like there has to be one of those, right? There has to be a warmest or most mild winter ever. If it wasn't this year, it would have been whatever the last one was.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we beat it by 3 degrees, you know, but like there's that whole 10-year cycle, right, of El Nino and El Nina or whatever. I don't know the exact.
Nina.
La Nina.
Yeah.
But
we're not meteorologists on this show, as you might be able to tell.
As you might be shocked to hear, because Dan immediately came out the gate with a weather report.
I sure did. I sure did. Wow. I should rethink the title of this episode.
What is it? The Derangement, not just Dan's weather. The agency also pointed to multiple studies. And they also want to really make it clear that the agency also pointed to multiple studies that have been published over several decades showing that the level of silver iodide used in cloud seeding is not toxic to humans and 1,000 times lower than the Environmental Protection Agency's drinking water standards. Just to be clear, that they are using chemicals, but they're safe.
I mean, the government will always tell you that. Government will tell you that. We should ask. We should get RFK Jr. on the horn. Ask him what he thinks. We know he doesn't like fluoride in the drinking water.
He's too busy courting Aaron Rodgers to be his VP.
Yeah, how fun would that be?
Did you hear about that?
It did. Yeah, that's really weird.
Because I know you're on vacation, so I don't know how out of the
He asked Dave Smith to be his VP too.
Dave Smith said no, right?
Yeah. I mean, but it's like how much of it is a joke? What percentage joke and what percentage real is it?
Right. Because I guess Tulsi was on Donald Trump Jr.'s podcast, and she said she would be honored to be Donald Trump's VP.
How would you feel about that, Corey? How would that make you feel inside your heart?
I don't fucking know. I'll just write my own name in.
How about this new brand of derangement syndrome we're seeing out here, Corey? It's not really even a new brand, but go ahead.
Well, it goes back to our old boy Charlie Kirk, right?
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. If I see a black pilot, right. I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. If I see a black
pilot, so
always loop.
Because it defaults to that, and we forgot to set it because I was having a panic attack and you were doing other things.
I was doing all sorts of stuff.
So referring to this DEI derangement syndrome that we are now seeing throughout mostly the trad cons, the traditional conservatives.
It's funny. I'm glad you said that because at first I was like, oh, I don't know what the fuck that is. Now just like, yeah, and I looked it up.
It's like, yeah, it's the Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Charlie Kirk types, these kinds of guys. And so it all started with the Dore flying off of, I think that was an Alaska Airlines flight, right? A few weeks back. And that's where we pulled the clip there of Charlie Kirk basically saying he never wants to see a black pilot on his plane again. He didn't say that per se, but that's basically how we could take it.
It's like, well, I might be okay with it. They keep us segregated with a door.
I would never know. So it started with that. And then ever since then, there have been a few little mishaps with United and Boeing. And I'm not saying that these things are acceptable. And I'll get into like the actual problem here. But the way this is being portrayed is that it's all DEI hires. Everything that goes wrong on any aircraft throughout the globe, any day of the week now, these tradcons are scouring the internet. They're sleuthing the internet, trying to find any issues with flights or airplanes anywhere in the world and go, oh, DEI. See, oh, look, it's DEI. It's these DEI hires that are the problem.
Yeah, it's the concept creep of when one bad thing happens and then trying to encompass it all into something else and then not knowing what correlation and causation is. Like, Dan, more murders happen in the summer. And that's when more people buy ice cream. So obviously ice cream causes murders.
Ice cream causes murders. That's absolutely right. Causes people to go psycho.
But what it also is, and it's what's funny, it's called a red car theory, right? Like the idea that like if you think of a red car when you're driving, you're gonna see more red cars because you thought of it. It's gonna stick out. We have pattern recognition. That's one of the reasons why as humans we made it to the top of the food chain. Take that, fucking other animals. Fuck you. So this isn't even the first time. Like, you remember when East Palestine happened with the train derailment? All of a sudden, like, you look it up, like there was no more or no less, like on average number of train derailments in that year that happened. That was what, 2023, beginning of 2023, right? There was no more or no less of those happening before or after that. And yet, when that happened, it was in the news constantly because everyone was looking for it. Just like when there was some big plant that caught on fire. Oh, remember when like a food plant caught on fire a couple years back? There was like a food distribution place that caught on fire. And so then everyone just started looking these fires up. And then all of a sudden there's like people like, there's fires everywhere. And it's like, no, there was like 1,000 industrial fires the year before. And there's been like 950 this year. But because now all of a sudden it's something that you're not used to looking for, and it's just popping up in your algorithm because they all want to get stuff that gets you engaged. And if you're constantly looking this shit up, the algorithm's going to create a feedback loop and give it to you. You're going to think it's fucking everywhere. And we all have and we in general have short attention spans. And if you look, you remember it was pedophiles. There was and like both sides do it. It was the Me Too movement on the left. It was the pedophilia on the right. And then there was like the train thing. There was
go back. You can even go back to like Satanic Panic and like all of the kidnappings of the 90s, right? Like it seemed like every kid was like a kid was getting snatched off of every block every single day.
Right. When it wasn't really happening. It was just being put on a pedestal. It was
Yeah.
it was like a fabricated prominence.
Yeah, and then
Well, I don't know what the
instances-
statistics are of what the kidnappings were in the 90s comparatively to the 80s or the 2000s, so I can't really say that. But on an average trend, it probably over those 30 years, it was probably somewhere in the same ballpark of each other. But if it's reported more, you're going to think it's happening more.
It was a form of derangement syndrome.
Like
and
America, I think, is on a trend to hit the lowest murder rate right now in our country's history, or like in recent history or something like that. And I wish Belle was here to look it up for me. But
it's okay.
But you would think it was completely different based on the news.
Yeah, and when it comes to the issues that we're seeing with Boeing and airlines, it's not necessary. This has been an ongoing problem now for about 20 years, and it has.
Sorry, I went on a
everything
tangent about all that.
No, it's good. It's because it puts context into it. So the issues that you see with Boeing, we'll just use Boeing as an example, is that, and you hear engineers talk about this all the time. It has to do with the fact that instead of engineers having a buttload of control within Boeing, it's now shareholders that have control. It's now the CEO types that have too much control and not so much control for engineers. So we've been seeing more sort of airline type failures. Luckily, not a whole lot that's been catastrophic to this point, but it is an actual concern that should definitely be looked into. It doesn't have anything to do with trans flight attendants. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but every flight that I've been on, maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, there's always been at least one gay flight attendant. I mean, it's just a thing now. I
just feel like that's always been a thing, to the point that I didn't even recognize it.
Yeah, I don't care. Like
before, like, I don't think I've ever noticed a difference from before everyone started talking about trying to push this stuff, or after everyone was trying to push this stuff, like all the DEI people and things like that, of different colored flight attendants, of men and women flight attendants. Like, I know guys with lists that aren't gay. I know guys with lists that are gay. So like, it could be, I don't know. I've never been like, when someone's handing me a drink, like, I wonder if a gay person made this. It's like, no, it's give me my fucking beer. Don't crash the fucking plane.
Is this going to give me AIDS? I don't want it. Take it back.
Did you spit in this? No, sir. This isn't Spirit Airlines.
Did you bleed in this? Yeah, but I don't know if you've noticed, like, not that it makes a difference, but like when I'm walking through the airport, and you see pilots walking around all over the place, right?
Yeah,
getting ready for their next flight or getting ready to be flown back to home or whatever by some other pilot. Like, not that this really fucking matters, but like, I can't help but notice that still most of them are like white men in like their 30s and 40s. Most people wearing pilot uniforms. Like, I'm not seeing like this weird discrepancy of like 60% of pilots are black all of a sudden, or I don't think I've seen a single trans pilot, to be honest with you, in the years that I've been
pilots
flying.
make a lot of money, so they could probably get really good surgery.
Not that, and it's like I don't even want to bring that part of it up because it doesn't actually matter. But it's like, the reason I bring it up is because when you have these tradcons pointing to DEI being an issue when it comes to like pilots or engineering or whatever, it's like, well, show it to me. Where is it? I don't see it. But besides like what maybe United has in their hiring policy, like, show me this issue of like underqualified pilots being hired because of the color of their skin, or engineers or whomever. They can't give you any examples of that.
There's it's like
out there.
Isn't that what's so goddamn frustrating a lot of times about like the tribalism, right? Like, they're right. There is like you mentioned, like there is shit happening to planes where it's like, well, that's concerning. That's up there pretty high. That fall might hurt. And
it wouldn't hurt at all.
No, you'd be dead.
It'd be terrifying on the way down.
Yeah. And then but then they blame it on something like this and the culture wars, and it gives the big corporations the pass when all these guys don't give a shit about safety. They're skirting everything they can to get the highest returns on their stocks, to get the CEOs the bonuses, and make people in fucking Wall Street happy. Boeing was like
more or less
an industry in America that like we should have been proud of. Like, it's like us and the UK that makes like two of the biggest, like most popular planes that like the air industries use. I don't know if we make if planes are made anywhere else. I know there's Boeing, Airbus that make the big jumbo jets. Does anyone else even do that? I'm sure there is. There's got to be.
I haven't looked into it enough.
But those are the two that are like the big boys on the block, and ours are just falling apart.
Yeah, I mean, and you can throw in, I'm sure there are some protectionist policies that we could look into that also hurt Boeing and the airline industry.
Hurt or help Boeing because
help Boeing and help their stockholders,
but hurts the air industry,
right? Because
if there was alternatives of people building big planes, that no one would be buying Boeing planes. They'd be buying the plane that isn't falling apart in the sky. And we would all be safer,
even less expensive. Yeah, and maybe airline tickets would be cheaper. So
whoa,
I'm not sure.
Are you talking about deregulating? Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Deregulating the airline industry. Wow, who do you think you are? Who are you, Milton Friedman?
Yeah, and so that's frustrating when you talk about deregulation. Like that would be the good deregulation. We're not talking about reducing the safety standards. If anything, boost them up because obviously they're not working.
Yeah. What's the other derangement syndrome we got going on here, Corey? I got it for you.
Okay.
I got it for you right here. Oh, look it. It's well, we're not going to say what we said pre-show because it might be a little bit offensive to some people. But anyway, here we go.
Greatest asset, the shamelessness of him, is then Biden has to get in there very hard and go rapist, racist, fascist over and over and over again. And then the trials are happening at the same time. He's just $93 million poorer right now. And just hammer it in with those three things: rapist, racist, fascist.
But here's the thing.
Thank you, Kara Swisher.
So don't talk about policy.
No.
Don't bring up ideas that you have that will help better the country and better the American people. Rapist, racist, fascist. Wait, was she giving advice to Trump or Biden?
She was. Well, it sounds like it could have gone either way, couldn't it have?
Yeah. That's what I was getting at.
But yeah, that was
Biden's also been accused of rape.
Campaign.
He's said a lot of racist things and actually put racist policy in place. Trump tried to with the Muslim ban, but it didn't work. It got knocked out. And sometimes I think even people do that stuff on purpose just to make their base happy, put up bills to fail on purpose, and we know that. But yeah, and then the fascism, Biden was the one trying to force everyone to take the goddamn vaccine.
Only when it came out under his watch.
Oh yeah, because you remember him and Harris were both saying they didn't trust it.
I'm not taking that Trump vaccine. Right? Yeah.
Yep.
It's so interesting how like they just never learn. They just never learn. And as much as neither you or I want to see another Trump presidency, there is something to the idea of him winning this election and just shutting these idiots down again, shutting them down one more time, and giving me actually a little bit more faith in the American people because they see right through this bullshit. They see right through the fact that there's no democratic process here. Go for it.
You know what's sad too is like those the ones you're calling idiots, the ones that are the whiners and stuff. Like we obviously, when it comes to like the core issues of like better pay, better affordability for houses, better lifestyle, like more survivability and things like that for the American people. That used to be our camp, Dan.
Yeah. Then you grow up.
And they keep moving goalposts and just getting more petty. And it's like, we aren't any better or any worse off collectively, really, as we were when Trump got in office in the first place. You know, like it's still the same fucking problems, still housing problems, still wage problems.
Dave Smith made a great point about this on his last episode because being the libertarian that he is, he gets asked a lot, but like, well, why wouldn't you just go ahead and support Trump because of how poorly Biden is doing? And I love the way he put it because this is kind of the way I see it. He looked at it as, imagine you're in a car who is barreling towards a cliff at 110 miles per hour. Would Trump stop that car? And his whole point is like, he might slow it down, but you're still going off the edge of that cliff at 80, 85, 90 miles an hour.
Right.
So it's like, there's not really I guess, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. There's not really a reason to just go, oh, we'll take Trump over Biden because he'll
he's the
stop
lesser
car.
of two evils.
Yeah, I mean, he was awful on COVID. I mean, he nearly started a war with Iran. I mean, there are plenty of things. I mean, not that Biden's not doing that as well. I'm not trying to pretend like somehow Biden's better in that
just trying to
regard.
start a war with Russia.
Yeah, so I mean, it's his 2017 tax policy was an absolute joke. He artificially kept interest rates low, ballooned the federal government more than any other president before him. So it's not like he's going to stop that car that's moving 110 miles per hour. He might slow it down a little bit. So who actually cares? But win on that stuff, not rapist, racist, fascist. We see right through it.
Yeah.
It's nonsense.
Nope. Yeah. Like I had a conversation with a buddy, and he was talking about how like Trump can't get in office again, and he's a Democrat, and like I was explaining to him that Democrats actually love Trump because of this.
Can't
it
live
makes
without
it
him.
easier to run. All you have to do is just talk about how bad he is. You don't have to talk about the future or any policy or anything like that. Like you have people in fucking school council runs and city council meetings or city council like elections running on being anti-Trump. The fuck is that? That's what our politics are. And they win because Trump is good for Trump, but he's really fucking shitty for the Republican Party because you have a bunch of imitators and they all fucking suck. And also to solidify this argument of saying the Democrats actually love Trump and the idea of him running is good for their party is them actually giving fucking money to super hyper partisan election denying Q-tards that were running for office. Remember that? The Democrats were dumping millions of dollars into their campaigns.
Yeah, and then we just find out that Black Rifle Coffee was donating to Democrats.
Yeah, that's funny, right? Black Rifle Coffee is donating to Democrats. It's all a fucking game.
Yeah.
Was it George Carlin? George Carlin, the comedian, when he says it's just one big fucking club and you ain't in it.
Yeah. But you have to pick a side. Dan. Why don't you just vote for Trump?
Dan Carlin, not to be confused with the aforementioned George Carlin, just didn't ask me anything on Reddit. And he said one of the reasons that he stopped doing Common Sense was because he kept getting accused of both siderism.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Right. And but he said he might do it again or whatever. And I was like, I don't know if that's disheartening or what. I'm like, because that's kind of what we do on our show. Like,
but it's like getting accused of both siderism by whom? By the hyper-partisan turd bags? Like, who cares?
Right.
Who cares if you're getting accused of
and it was the both siderism thing, I feel like, was way more tense during Trump's first presidency. Like, you had to pick a side.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's going to happen.
I feel like it's more. It's probably going to happen again, right? But I feel like it's more tempered. I also told my Democratic friend that, like, honestly, like if Trump gets in office, it's going to make my podcast a whole hell of a lot easier.
Going to make this. Well, it's going to be fun these next whatever it is 6 months until November, because that's going to start ramping up pretty hard. It already is. I mean, we just saw Kara Swisher on CNN going you gotta use the racist, rapist, fascist.
Yeah, the C and the P, just switch them around. They're fine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Same thing.
That's
probably
insane.
A few racist rapists out there, or a few rapist racists out there. Who knows? Anyway, what do we have next, Corey? How's SCOTUS going to save us?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we could talk about that.
So we didn't get a chance to talk about this on last week's show, but a couple of weeks ago we had and since obviously this was a part of Super Tuesday, but the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling to put Trump back on the Colorado ballot, and that's one of those things where Corey and I we've talked a little bit about it behind the scenes, not on the show just yet, but just how fucking important that not just that ruling, but that 9-0 ruling actually was. Even all of the liberals on the Supreme Court voted to have Trump put back on the Colorado ballot because they understand what the writing on the wall is here. They understand that if you're able to just remove Trump from a ballot when he hasn't been convicted of anything, if you ask the folks on CNN or if you ask Rachel Maddow, he's been convicted of 90 counts of murder. But the fact of the matter is he has not. And if you're able to just arbitrarily remove somebody from a ballot based on accusations against them, that's going to be a real problem for our democratic process going forward, not just over Donald Trump. And again, we talk. What do we always say, Corey? If the Democrats go in and they make this thing happen, if they're able to make it happen where they get Trump removed from the ballot, it's only a matter of time before that precedent is used against you. So this is what these idiots don't understand.
Yeah, so I have written down right here that in the unanimous 9-0 decision, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that states cannot bar Trump from the ballot using the 14th Amendment insurrection clause. This decision clears the way for Trump to appear on the ballot in all 50 states. The U.S. Supreme Court emphasized that while states may disqualify persons from holding state office, they have no power under the Constitution to enforce Section 3 with respect to federal offices, especially the presidency. So they grew federal government a little bit. No, I'm just teasing.
Might be one exception where it might have been okay.
Right. But yeah, the state can't dictate what their residents are going to do in a federal election. End of story. There was another ruling that they had to deal with recently, wasn't there?
No, I don't think it's been done yet. It's the TikTok ban.
Well, that's going to the Senate.
Yeah. So they haven't. I'm sure it will end up going to the Supreme Court at some point. Let's be honest.
It might, but I don't think it'll. Do you think it'll pass the Senate? I don't think it's gonna.
I have no way of knowing because all this bill is it's just another power grab. It's just another grab at the federal government being able to essentially control free speech without doing so. So I think ultimately, if and when this does reach the Supreme Court, based on recent rulings and particularly free speech rulings, they're going to come to the right conclusion. But the thing that I find interesting is that they want to ban TikTok because of, Chinese influence or in Chinese, algorithm tampering and data collection. But what I see here is the quiet part being said out loud, because why is it okay for our federal government to collect our data and to tamper with algorithms and to tell Twitter what the fuck it's allowed to have on its platform? But for some reason, it's so much more dangerous for China to do that. And I don't think we actually know what kind of data collection China is getting from. I don't think the public knows. Maybe the CIA knows, or some folks in the intelligence community, but I don't think we actually know. But at the end of the day,
they might be able to go through a back door and get to your other shit, but they could do that probably without having to use the app if they really wanted your data, just like how the government can. But it's interesting to me that they want to get rid of the one app just because the government can't have a say in what they do, pretty much.
Yeah, I don't have the. Yeah, weird, huh? And he's also for IVF, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, because he knows how to. He knows the political wins, but he just met with a GOP mega donor recently. He might even have him on his staff or something that has a huge stake in ByteDance. But he's like, it's to make Facebook more powerful. That's what he said.
Facebook, Instagram. Basically just Facebook. That's the only one that they would really care about, because they don't mind Elon having a lot of power when it comes to Twitter.
Yeah, but what is
free speech platform?
This goes back to the thing we're talking about with removing president from the ballot. This just opens a door to what's next. Waze is from Israel. We're just gonna start what if this shit goes sour and all of a sudden we're super anti-Israel? We're gonna start banning Waze. We're We're gonna ban like
Israel
what?
is our friend forever.
Like WhatsApp. Isn't WhatsApp a foreign entity, a foreign app?
Yeah, I'm not sure who owns WhatsApp anymore. Again, these are the reasons we need Bell here.
To look this stuff up, yeah. But no, I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. I think it's an infringement on
Meta owns WhatsApp now.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Didn't it used to be Russian?
I don't know what it was before that, but yeah. So it's owned by Facebook or Meta.
Of course.
Facebook,
good
anyway.
because we have access to all the data that's being shared, but we don't on TikTok, so it upsets us.
The only thing we have
what was Nikki Haley's support for Hamas goes up 17% for every half hour on TikTok or something like that. I shit you not.
Yeah, and she had absolutely no way to back up that claim. Like, how can you possibly know that? How can you possibly know that that's true? Oh man, I don't know, dude. Like, it just thank God for the Supreme Court, and I can't believe I still to this day can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. What's up, Brightness?
What else we got, Corey?
So I thought this was interesting. The Great Oregon and San Francisco experiments. So I'm going to just kind of give you the synopsis of what's going on in both of these places. And then give you why I think that this is why we need less federal government. So Oregon's approach to drug decriminalization has been a topic of significant discussion and change. Initially, Oregon became the first state to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of illicit drugs, including hard drugs like heroin and methamphetamine. And with the passing of the Measure 110 in 2020, this measure aimed to shift the approach from criminalization to a health-based model where individuals caught with drugs would face a $100 fine or undergo a health check at an addiction recovery center. However, recent developments indicate that Oregon has rolled back this law due to concerns over rising homelessness and drug overdoses. The state is now reinstating criminal penalties for drug use and possession. The reversal has sparked a debate about the effectiveness of the decriminalization as a means to address the drug addiction and its associated social issues. Critics argue that the decriminalization law has led to increased public use and other related problems, while supporters believe that more time is needed to correct the long-standing issues that criminalization is not an effective solution. The changes in Oregon's drug policy, the ongoing national conversation about the best ways to handle the drug addiction, and the impacts of drug laws on society is a complex issue with many facets, including public health, law enforcement, and social services. So, in Oregon, 4 years ago, they decriminalized hard drugs, and 4 years later, they're going, this ain't happening, this ain't working. And you haven't been out west. I don't know if you've ever been out west, but you haven't been out west Oregon in the last 4 years.
Not since any of that's gone down, no.
And it's pretty fucking bad out there. Like when you're walking, there's just people that are just fucked up all over the place. Like obviously need help, but they're allowed to just kind of hang out on the corner and shoot up drugs and stuff like that.
See, what I find interesting about that is when they originally did the decriminalization, everybody was touting Portugal, right? About how all drugs in Portugal had been decriminalized. There's one thing that they forgot to do that Portugal does, which is just because drugs are decriminalized does not mean you get to shoot up your drugs at a park in Lisbon. You will go to jail for that. You don't just get to that's like the one huge part that like all of these places that are decriminalizing drugs forgot about. They forgot.
Wait, no, so you're talking about in Portugal?
Yes.
Yeah. Like simple possession probably shouldn't be a crime. Maybe like they just give you a sticker, like maybe it's not a sticker, but like a card, like, hey, go fucking get some help. But if you're gonna be in the middle of a street, acting all crazy because of those drugs, you should probably get detained. If you're trying to wield a machete and chase someone while you're naked, you probably get tased. If you're shooting up a needle in a park, no, you get arrested. Like
there can still be laws about public use, even if even if it is decriminalized. I mean, if you walk down most streets in the United States with an open beer container in your hand, you're not going to go to jail, but you're going to get a pretty hefty fine for an open intoxicant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like why did they? I can't believe they just completely left out the fact of like public use is still illegal.
Oh,
So
I
like
know.
I'm extremely like supportive of the decriminalization of drugs. However, there can still be rules. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like as far as use goes.
Hi, I like booba. Says what is this? Bargain bin Mario and Luigi.
We've been called worse. It's so funny. Well, yeah, it would be bargain bin because we're both Irish. So we're just the Irish version,
they're the Irish version of Mario and Luigi.
Of the Italian
What would that
plumbers.
be? What would those names be? Oh my god, I can't think of it. What would be an M? An Irish name.
Well, Michael.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah.
Anything biblical would work.
Michael and Lawrence. Saint Michael and Saint Lawrence.
Anyway.
And then so let me get on to San Francisco. So now San Francisco recently passed a measure that requires drug tests for most welfare recipients. This decision reflects a shift in the city's approach to public safety and drug policy. The measure, known as Proposition F, mandates that single adults without dependents who receive welfare benefits and are suspected of using illegal drugs must undergo treatment. It was approved by voters, and it is seen as a sign of a rightward political shift in the historically progressive city. The measure drew more than 60,000% of the vote and is set to affect more than 5,000 city residents who receive cash assistance. It will require those who are reasonably suspected of being dependent on illegal drugs to submit screening and treatment to remain eligible for aid. The specifics of what constitutes reasonable suspicion are yet to be determined. This policy change comes amid concerns over homelessness and drug overdoses in the city. In 2023, there were 813 accidental overdose deaths reported by chief medical examiners' offices. The new measure is part of broader efforts by Mayor London Breed to address the city's drug crisis and improve public safety, which includes expanding police powers and easing restrictions on law enforcement. The implementation of this measure has sparked debate, with opponents arguing that it could exacerbate issues related to homelessness and drug use, while supporters believe it would help more people get treatment they need to change the city's current condition.
The reality is they just need to have Xi Jinping come to San Francisco and stay for like 6 months, and then they'll have the whole city. Yeah, they'll have the whole city. They'll have the whole city cleaned up by then. I mean, listen, I don't know how I feel about demanding that people applying for welfare or assistance be mandated to take a drug test.
No,
however,
it said suspected.
Well, yeah, but again, that's pretty fucking arbitrary. What the hell does that mean? Who decides who's suspicious and who's not? However, like I get the concept here because this is what we talk about all the time when it comes to liberal cities. It's not even that we have our progressive ideals, Corey, that I think we still hold deep down. However, this is what you run into when you have these pockets of just insulary, run of the mill and out of control progressivism, and you don't have any political pushback to it. We talk about all the time about how we love living in a purple state here in Michigan because it really kind of is its own checks and balance when you have progressivism and progressives and conservatives living in close proximity to each other. It's why some of the best states in the country are red states with liberal pockets. Those tend to be, not always, there are exceptions, but those tend to be like I guess the most the places where you visit and you just don't see a lot of tension. You know what I mean? It's just, you stay over here, we'll stay over here, and we'll decide what state policies are going to be, at the voting booth. When you have a place like California or a place like New York, where it's huge progressive pockets in a majority progressive state, we're seeing that that's causing major problems. As much as they tried to deny it for all this time, even San Francisco itself is now admitting it's a complete fucking shithole, where prices are through the roof, home prices are crazy. There's homelessness all over the place, public drug use all over the place. And it doesn't mean that being a progressive makes you a bad person. It just means you need a little bit of a check and balance. Go ahead.
Yeah, like San Francisco is about to have a huge like commercial real estate debacle on their hands. Like it's about to get absolutely insane there. Like they're not on, yeah, they're not on a very good trajectory. But so between Oregon, sorry for all you Oregonians. I'm the Michigan
Oregonians?
man. No, like when you go out there, it's like Oregon, but like from Michigan, we typically like Oregon.
They
like
always say it's not Oregon. It hasn't gone anywhere.
Right. Oregon.
It's just a stupid dad joke. Yeah, go ahead.
So why we need less federal government, and this is why, because what makes America like a state that or makes it a country that does have like sometimes some of the most progressive things happening, and makes it like such a strong country, with whether we want to regard it to GDP or just the wealth of how it's uncomparable to most other countries, is because it's one giant experiment. You've heard that phrase before. But then within that like cosmos of the experiment is you have the 50 different states, and each of those 50 different states, you have like hundreds of different cities. And if you give these smaller pockets like more governmental power and take it away from the federal government, first off, the taxes are going to be more efficient. And you're going to give these little areas the power to fuck up. Like it's an experiment. Look what happened in San Francisco. They fucked up. Now other states and other cities can go, well, let's just not do that. Same thing with other states. They can go, well, we can't do what Oregon did. And why this is better compared to like a strong federal government is there is no experiment. The federal government is the end all be all. That's why things like communism don't necessarily work as well as things like this. It always works great on paper, but you have no room for dissent and no room for the alternative to be like, well, let's try this over here. You know, like America gets the chance to throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, while other countries can't afford that opportunity.
Yeah, in smaller pockets.
Right.
Because
I don't look at this as a failure. It was an experiment. It doesn't work. Now we know that we can't apply this to the whole country. Thank God this wasn't a federal policy. You know what I mean?
It's so interesting because I've said and I'm starting to second guess this a little bit. I've always thought that like something like communism could work on a very, very, very small scale. I'm talking like a village of like 100 people or less.
Probably
you might be able to make something like communism work, you know, where it's just like, okay, everybody's got their job and we all support each other and nobody's any better than anybody else. But you cannot do that in a place that's got 350 million people in it. Like there's just no possible way to ever make that work, because you're going to have to concentrate power somewhere. As to where a village of 100 people, you know, you might not have to concentrate power to something like that. And now it's turning out that even something like as small as a city, the more socialist it becomes, the shittier it becomes.
Yeah.
So like even something as small as that, it doesn't really work.
But in a capitalist society, you can afford to have a small socialist subset. You know, like in a capitalist society like ours, I can buy land and create my own little communist utopia on 100 acres somewhere in the middle of Michigan. In a communist society, I can't go and buy 100 acres and create a little capitalist utopia with inside. So that's why that's the main reason. I mean, not the main reason. That's like one of my main arguments.
It is interesting in certain ways how like socialism can exist within capitalism, but it doesn't work the other way around.
Right.
It would never work the other way around. You couldn't have capitalism exist in a socialist system. Anyway, interesting to see that Oregon and San Francisco are seeing the error of their ways. Is it too late to fix? We will soon find out.
We shall see. You got anything else, Dan? Oh, actually, I got this real quick. Look. It was the old man's birthday the other day. Look at that. Look how dirty they did him. Look how fucking dirty they did him.
80-something candles on there. My only fear is that the man is that he's going to get up and fall down into it
I'm surprised the sprinklers didn't go off.
This just in, the president has third-degree burns for falling into his birthday cake.
Lost his eyebrows trying to blow out 82 fucking candles. Gave himself an aneurysm.
Boy.
They could have just put the 8 and the 2-digit candles just in the middle. Just 2
That's tacky.
candles.
That's tacky, Corey. It's just
81
tacky.
fucking candles. Could you imagine having the stress of trying to light them all before the first one melted? Like, did someone start on one side and someone on the other? Dude, the whole
Somebody
cake is going to be fucking wax by the time it's done.
Somebody just brought a acetylene torch into the West Wing there, and
It's just, no, it looks like he just started a trash can fire. And they're just like, look, he's proud of his work.
well, he did kind of start a trash can fire, Corey. You know,
He's like, this is
from
America, Jack. America personified in the cake of Biden's birthday.
My 67 Corvette.
Yeah, he's like, this is the same thing that almost took out my 67 Corvette.
Turns out that's how that fire started.
Oh,
a
yeah. It was
birthday
like, for his 70th birthday. Dan, Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is libservativeshow.com. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast. And you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today.
For Bell the Body Snatcher in his absence, he as always has been Corey Walsh.
He's Dan Griffin.
This has been Libservative Intellectual Idiots Fostering Political and Cultural Literacy. And until next time, we are out of here.